does our island's fresh water come from? The water in your tap, the water that our island's farmers use to grow food, it is all thanks to our native rainforests. We have many beautiful plants on our islands, but most of them were brought from other places. Only in a few very special places can you be completely surrounded by native plants. Plants that evolved to live here on this island together before any people first came to Hawaii. These places are often high up on our mountains in the Waikamoi, where people rarely go. Would you like to visit this beautiful place? We're going there today. Aloha! I'm artist Maggie Sutrov. I bring my art supplies with me everywhere, and today I'm painting with the East Maui Watershed Partnership, who works with many groups to care for the rainforests of Haleakala. First, we are going to join these students to help turn a pasture back into native shrublands. We are at Haleakala Ranch's Pu'u Pahu Reserve, just below Haleakala National Park. These students are helping plant a'ali'i, pukiave, pilo, and more. While they plant, I use my paints to express their care for the ʻāina. I have to paint as fast as they are planting, but I look closely to find the lines and colors that make up the scene. After they finish planting, they use art to express this place as well. Have you ever drawn or painted outside? It is a magical thing to just sit, surrounded by native plants, and notice what you see, hear, and feel. What is your favorite place to be in nature? Next, my friend Allison Borrell and I head into the Nature Conservancy's Waikamoi Preserve. The hike begins at Hosmer's Grove, surrounded by pine trees. I can hear the native birds, but these trees aren't native. They were brought in to replant forests that were cut down for profit a long time ago. After cutting down the forests, people realized that we need trees to attract the clouds and bring the rain. So they planted pine trees because they grew quickly. However, when you look under the pine trees, their needles cover the forest floor, and other plants can't grow there. As we head deeper into Waikamoi, there are less pine trees and more native plants. There are ohia and koa trees, and some of the native bushes we helped plant earlier. Look at the lines and shapes of these plants. Each of these species is unique. They evolved to live here and nowhere else on the planet.
Here we have a special outplanting of extremely rare and endangered cyanias. These were planted out here by the Plant Extinction Prevention Program, also known as PEP, and they work with plants that are 50 or less known in the wild, so the rarest of the rare. And these plants, it's so nice to see them doing really well and healthy. And if you look underneath, all these little flowers underneath here are nectar and a food source for our native Hawaiian honeycreepers. And they evolved, these flowers, with the honeycreepers, in that the beaks started to match the shape of the flowers, and the flowers started to match the shapes of the beaks of these birds. And this happened over millions of years as they created a symbiotic relationship together.
As we walk through the rainforest, sometimes the sun filters down through the canopy, and sometimes a soft mist of rain comes through. When the trade winds that blew over the open ocean reach Haleakala, they blow right up the side of the mountain to where the air is cooler, and all of the moisture in them condenses into clouds and into this rain. Here, the plants are so thick that we walk on a boardwalk built by the Nature Conservancy, so we don't even leave footprints in this special place. Plants grow on plants, and moss and lichen grow on everything too. Ferns are everywhere. When rain hits the bare ground, it keeps flowing, taking soil with it. When rain falls on Waikamoi, this giant living sponge soaks it all up. Some of this water becomes drinking water. Some finds its way into the streams of East Maui, where it is so important to the kalo farmers of Ke'anai, and ditches and tunnels bring it to other farms too. The water also trickles down deep through the island's lava rock into the aquifer, which formed over thousands of years. A lot of people on Maui get their water from wells that tap this aquifer, but it doesn't refill quickly. Everyone wants Waikamoi's water. Ola I ka wai a ka opua. There is life in the water from the clouds. So we all need Maui's native rainforest to be healthy, to be the green sponge that provides for us all. But is that the main reason Waikamoi is so important? What about the plants and animals that call this place home? They are the ones who evolved to work so well together. Like the cyanea and the forest birds I hear up in the canopy as we hike, the plants grow so close together, they grow in harmony. What can we learn from how they work together? I finally choose the view I will paint. It's a chance to notice the lines that express each tree, each fern, each shrub, to see how they grew, and to notice all the colors of this place. The mist of Waikamoi begins to fall on my painting, and I let the colors flow and blend. It's like the rain is painting with me. But with art, it doesn't always turn out the way you expect.
That's a good color for down there. Yeah. There. So I was making the most amazing painting of this view here. And the rain, it was just the slightest mist, and it was collaborating. And then Waikamoi really wanted to do the watercolors too. And it's raining a little too much. So my painting is underneath this garbage bag, and it is all wet, and the garbage bag is wet. Let's see what it's looking like. Oh boy. So I'm gonna take this home and let it dry and see what it turns into. See how it's all wet, the garbage bag. I could say it messed it up, but I'm just gonna say this is how it's going, this piece, and we'll see what happens with it next.
As we hiked out and emerged from the thickest part of the forest, the sun came back out again. However my painting turned out, I couldn't be mad at the rains of Waikamoi. Rain is what it does here. And in fact, back at the car, while I was still full of the feelings and colors of Waikamoi, I took out my paints again. Rain fell again, but this time only the softest mist that left a light texture of raindrops in the paint. And so together, Waikamoi and I, we finished the painting. And so now we are going to create a painting that expresses the rainforest of Waikamoi. To do that, these are the supplies that we are going to need. You are going to want 1 watercolor paper. This paper is 6 inches by 9 inches, and you're gonna need a paintbrush because we are painting, and some watercolor paint. To help with the painting, you're gonna want a paper towel, and you're going to want a cup of water. Make sure that your water is somewhere safe so it doesn't spill over. And finally, we're going to need a pencil, but only to write your name on the back of the paper. Let's do that now. I'll move these out of the way, and I'm going to flip my paper over and write my name. You write yours. Okay, we are almost ready to begin painting, but before we start, there's one thing we need to do. We need to stop and think. It's a good thing to do before we paint anything. We're going to stop and think about 3 things. We're going to think about where I'm going to start on the artwork. And I'm going to think about what color I'm going to use, and I'm going to think about what stroke. And so let's stop and think about these things together. What are we going to think about again? Do this with me. Where are we going to paint? What color? And what stroke? That way, we have a plan. We're not just barreling in and painting anywhere. You have an idea of how you are going to create your artwork. So, first of all, since we are creating this rainforest of Waikamoi, we're going to have some trees in there. Then we'll have some plants that are shorter, and you get to create your rainforest the way you want. But we're going to start with the bigger trees. And the way to do those is to start from the bottom and go up. And you might start over here, you might start over here, you might start over here. Doesn't matter. You can choose however you want. You can also move your paper vertical, and then you can have really tall trees. I'm going to do mine horizontal, but it is up to you which you choose. And so that's what we need to stop and think about for where. Next, we need to stop and think about what color. Wow, there are so many amazing colors in nature, and especially in Waikamoi. We're going to be painting a lot of trees. And so if you paint a tree, what color is the bark? Is it brown? Like that? And are the leaves green? Like that? But is that how the trees in our video of Waikamoi looked? Did they all look like that? Really? The same brown? Just a trunk like that? And a big green cloud at the top? I don't think that's what they looked like. Let's look again. Look at the browns and the grays. Are they all the same, or are they different? Notice what types you see. Do you see maybe a reddish brown, or a greenish brown, or a purplish brown, or a bluish gray? Look closely and see what you can find. And then look at the greens. Are they all the same green? How do you tell them apart? Is one a yellowish green? Maybe a bluish green? Maybe a reddish green? Or an orangish green? You look and decide what sorts of greens that you see. And what we're going to do today is we're going to mix so many different types of browns and types of greens. And so we're not just going to paint using the brown and the green from your palette. We're going to use those to mix And so for practice, let me show you this. I can take brown, and my colors are all wet. You can put a drop of water in them if they need. And I'm gonna take some brown. I'm gonna put some brown in this part of my palette. This is where I can mix colors. And then I'm gonna wash my brush, dry my brush so it's clean. See how? No more color. And take some of that red. And now I have red and brown together. I think maybe I want a little more red in there. You get to decide. There we go. I have a nice red brown. Let's try a orange brown now. Put some orange in my palette and I add some brown and I tested it out and I think it needs more orange. Yes, oh, there we go. And you can always make colors lighter with watercolor by adding water to it. And so there I have a light one. And let's do a yellow brown and it needs more yellow. Oh, yes, that's getting together there. I love that. And then, of course, green brown. Oh my goodness, there's so many colors that you get to discover. Ooh, blue and brown makes a gray. Imagine that. Finally, let's do a purple brown. And this one, I forgot what I was doing. I put the brown right on the paper. That's how I mix my colors sometimes. But now I'll put the purple in there. Look at that. Ooh, I love it. And so, look how many browns that I made. I bet you can make even more browns. And guess what? We can do the same thing with greens. We can mix that many greens and more. I'm gonna make a reddish green. So I put the green on my palette and add some brown to it, and oh wow, isn't that amazing? And I can do the same thing with orange and green, and I'm getting some incredible deep foresty greens. And then yellow and green, oh, that's so bright and sunny, and sometimes I get the colors a little messy and I just wipe it with my paper towel and keep going. And then of course there's just the green, but there's not too much of that in the rainforest. So I'm gonna move on to the blue green, and oh, isn't that beautiful? And the purple green, wow. However you mix your colors, let's mix so many different browns and greens, and that way your forest will be so full of color. And so we stopped and thought about where we're going to paint, what color, and now we're stopping and thinking about what stroke. And so take your brush, dip it in your water, wipe it on your napkin so it's not drippy, and give it a hug. And so see how I am stroking the brush of it so that it comes to a tip. And if your brush doesn't come to a tip, that's okay. Still give it a hug, and we're gonna hold it on the middle part here. Holding it on the middle part lets us have control. Hold it the way you hold a pencil. And so with that, we are going to practice how we are going to do the trunks of our trees. First of all, on the back of your paper, with no water and no paint, we're going to practice our stroke. And so I'm going to start with my brush pressed down so it's really touching the paper. See how the bristles are bent? And as I go up, it's going higher and higher, higher, and I'm going so that now I'm only touching the paper with the tippiest tip of the brush. I'm going to try that again. Still no paint, no water, but you can still see what I'm doing. Pressing down so the whole brush is touching. I'm not pressing hard, but it is bending. And then as I go higher, I'm going to lift so it's a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. And so practice doing that, because that is the stroke we're going to do. Your line doesn't have to be straight. It can wiggle like branches do, but by the time you're up to the top, it barely touches the paper. Okay, Have you practiced that? Are you ready to begin painting? We stopped and thought about everything we needed to think about. Where we're going to paint, what color, and what stroke. We're ready to begin. I'm flipping my paper back over. You can paint along with me. I have everything I need here, and I'm going to decide to begin with, I have this blue-brown here. I'm going to make a little bit more of it. Blue-brown became a gray. Blue in there, brown in there, and I don't tap my brush on here because then water can splash onto my artwork or someone else's. I just wipe on the napkin, and I'm going to put some blue in there. And yeah, I like right there, not quite as gray as before, but maybe I'll grab some of that too. And this tree is going to go right here. And so I'm going to press down my brush and come up, and it can wiggle a little bit. And you see how it's starting to get a little bit thinner? A little bit thinner. And now it's just a twig. But this tree's not done. It needs more branches. It's not just a stick. I'm going to get some more of that color. And I'm going to start down here again. That'll make it a nice thick trunk. And I'm going to come up like this. And I can get thinner and thinner and thinner. And then I'm going to have some more branches come off of it. Medium thick and thinner, and I'm going to have them overlap, and look, they can have little branches coming off of them there. Does it need any more branches coming off in other spots? Maybe I have one more crazy one coming off this side. Ooh, I like that. And I know I don't have any leaves on it yet, but we'll get there. It's time to make another brown. I love this yellow brown. I'm going to put some more yellow with it. And I'm going to wipe my brush there to get some of that yellow off of it. And then wash my brush, dry my brush, get some brown. And yes, I love that. I'm going to do a tree over here. I'm going to go thick, and I'm going to let it go off to the side. And it's going to curl and go thin. Ooh, I like that. You decide how your trees are going to grow. You get to design your own forest. I'm going to add more of those branches. Maybe some of them go sideways. And the trees don't have to go all the way to the top, and not all the trees have to be tall. And they're going to get green on them soon, but we are just doing the branchy part right now. Let's see. Next, I'm going to do a purple brown. So, I'm out of space on here. I'm going to use my paper towel to pick up the blue brown because I think I'm done with that one. And I'm going to put down some purple. Ooh, lots of purple. I love it. Clean my brush. Dry my brush. Grab some brown. And sometimes I don't know how much purple I want to add. So see how I didn't mix it all in at once? I'm just taking a little bit of time till I get how purple or brown I want. Yes, that will work. Okay, I'm going to do a tree that's right next to this one. That's how I'm going to do it. Again, you get to decide where your trees go. Every view in Waikamoi has different trees and shapes and lines and views. This tree is leaning over. You see how right there looks too skinny? I'm going to thicken that because trees are always thickest at their base, at their bottom of their trunk. And then they get thinner as they get taller. Ooh, I like that. How about red-brown? Take some red. Take some brown. And I'm going to do one tree here. This tree's going to overlap, but the colors, it has a lot of water in it, so it's lighter. If you want lighter colors with watercolor, have more water in it. And in a forest, sooner or later, those trees do overlap. And so that is something you can do in your art. And maybe there's a couple more of these trees that have some red in them. But maybe I grab some of the yellow brown and the red brown, a little bit of that orange brown. Mix it up a little bit. Why not? Then they won't be exactly the same. That's a very skinny tree behind. Ooh, so I'm going to start to think, well, what other trees are farther away? I can put in little bits of that. I think I do want some of that blue-brown again. Oops. Well, I'll take a little bit of blue and a little bit of that one, see what I get. I want it lighter because it's farther away. Yeah, even a little bit more water, but not drippy. And I'll have that go farther away. And I think we're just about ready to bring this forest to life with greens. I love it. Let's mix some greens now. If your palette is crazy with colors that you don't need anymore, then you can wipe them up. If you think you might use them again, then leave them. But sometimes we just need space. And so with that, let's put in greens. I think I am going to start with the bright yellow green. When I was painting in Waikamoi, there's a little while that the sun came out and it was so brilliant. Little bits of sunshine hitting up in the canopy. And so there was bits of yellow green up there. And oh, I loved those little sparkles of bright color. And then there was other times where it was a very dark green in there because it was raining and cloudy. And so there will be some greens that are mixed to be dark like this. Now, I didn't stop and think about my stroke though. Maybe we should stop and think about what sort of stroke would help best for the leaves. Right now, I was doing like little just small leaves like that. But if you have a koa tree in yours, you might want to do little crescents. See how I'm going bloop, 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 bloop? It depends on the type of tree, what sort of leaves it has. Koa trees have long, curved leaves like that. Other trees have very small leaves, and others again will have larger leaves, right? And so think about the strokes that you make as you go. Maybe some areas have big leaves that are kind of coming together. So I'm going kind of bloop, 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 bloop. I kind of move the color around a little bit, but I don't work on one spot too much. But that looks like that's all the same color there. I'm going to make another green. Let's do, that purple just loves to take over. But a purple green can be a lovely dark shadow. So, I'm going to drop some of that purple into that green I made there. You get to decide how to fill your forest with color. But you know what? there isn't only leaves up here. That's part of what makes the rainforest of Waikamoi so special. It has everything growing at every level. That is why it is such an incredible sponge for our island. And so I am going to make ferns as well. Ooh, spirals like that are fun. And I can do ferns that come out like that. That is great practice for using the tip of my brush. Brush a little bit like that. And so I do a long stroke, and then I go bloop, 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 right off like that. And if I want, I can do the fern bits on the other side, but you can also just do it one-sided too. And so now I have that, and I can also just do bushes that are down below too. But all down here gets to be filled with beautiful color of the rainforest. So keep finding greens. Decide where you want light greens, where you want dark greens, how you are going to bring your rainforest to life. And sometimes there are green things just growing on the trees themselves. They're covered in moss and other plants. And so you can add green right to your trees too. And if that green is light with not too much paint, then it'll just color them a little bit. If it is thick with a lot of color, then it'll be like you've got plants growing on them. I know that your piece is turning out amazing too. It's going to be your expression of Waikamoi. And if something happens that you didn't expect, it's not a mistake. It's an opportunity to be creative. Like I had a drip fall right there. I didn't say, oh no, it's ruined. I said, oh well, I think that's a lighter part on the bark, and maybe I'll put a little more color over it later. What if right there's a plant growing out of that tree? I saw places like that. And so with that, I'm turning it into something. A mistake isn't a mistake. It's an opportunity to be creative. You can put other dark colors in if you think it needs. Ooh, I like that purple brown over on that one. Maybe some more of that over here. Ooh, I'm liking this yellow green, and I think it got a little bit of another color in it too. So it's not very bright. It's got a little bit of purple or red or something in there, but I like it. But now I need some dark green again. I think some blue green. How do I know what color to do next? Well, a lot of times I step back from my artwork and I look at it from a distance, and then I notice things. And what I stop and look for is what part I like. And so maybe right now, just stop for just a moment and go, what part do you like? And with that, you can enjoy that. And then after you notice what part you like, you go, what does it need next? Maybe it needs a reddish brown. Maybe it needs a bluish green. That's right. I was going to add more bluish green here. And some of it down here. Ooh, and more ferns. There were so many ferns on the ground. I'm going to fill in some of those white areas. You don't have to fill in all the white, but the forest doesn't have much empty space in it. Every artwork turns out differently. Even if you try to do the same artwork twice, it's not going to be the same. And every artwork comes from you. It's special. It contains who you are and how you see the world and how you want to express it. And so, when you finish your artwork and, I think mine is just about done. a little bit more of that blue-green in there. Yeah. Oh, yes. Ooh, I love how this is coming together. Oh, we've been mixing so many colors. But you know what? There is one tree of the rainforest of Hawaii that is so special. The ohia tree. And it's ohia lehua. And so maybe I will put a couple ohia blossoms in here. And so, I'm going to stop and think. Where do I want to put these? I think I'm going to put them on this tree that's in the foreground. Just a couple little... So I'm using the tip of my brush and some thick red paint, not drippy. If it's drippy, then it won't make the little blossom bits. And so now I've got some ohia lehua in there. Maybe a couple hiding in the background. Just a little bit, not too much. Yes! Now I think this painting is done. How is yours coming along? And so, when you finish your painting, look at it and find a detail that you especially like. If you like your whole painting, I bet there still is some detail in it that you especially like, some piece of the everything that you like. And if this was a really frustrating painting for you, that's all right. Some artworks are like that, but I bet you can still find at least one detail that you think worked, even if it was one brushstroke that you like how it looked. Because if you keep collecting those little things that worked over time, they will add up to you creating a masterpiece. Just keep creating. So, after you notice what you like about yours, if you're painting with other people, share your artwork with a neighbor. Show them the detail that you like and listen to the detail that they like. After that, I bet you can find out a detail in each other's paintings that you like. So tell your neighbor what detail in their piece you really like. And again, don't tell them everything. Find something specific. And now I have one last reflection question for you. You painted a beautiful painting of such a special part of our island. It is unlike anywhere else. It has trees and plants and insects and birds that exist nowhere else on the planet. It is where so much of our island's water comes from. And so, with your painting, you got to express this place. When other people see your artwork, what do you hope they will know about Waikamoi? So we have one last thing we need to do. We need to clean up our painting supplies so that they're all ready for next time we make some art. So take your brush and your palette. If this area is dirty but dry, you might want to clean it out. If this is your own palette and you like the colors you made, you can leave them in there, they'll dry, and you can use them next time just by wetting them again. But if you share this palette with other people, make it nice and clean for them for next time. And so with a little water and my brush, I am wetting those areas. And so that everything is wet. And I'm also going to, if any of my colors are dirty, wet that, and then I'm going to wipe with my paper towel. And so I can use my paper towel now to get all the rest of that color out. And again, if this is your own palette and you had a color you especially liked, you don't have to clean it up. You can let it stay. But it is also nice to have a clean palette. So there we go, a nice clean palette. And I'm gonna make sure my brush is nice and clean. Rinse it in the water, wipe it on my napkin so it's not drippy, give it a hug, and those are all ready for next time. And so finally, remember, share your art with other people. When you share your art, you inspire people. And when people are inspired, they want to make the world more beautiful too, whether it is by taking care of our ʻāina or making more art themselves. Either way, you are making our island and our world even more beautiful. Mahalo for doing that. I can't wait to make more art with you again soon. Until then, ahui ho.